The story kicks off at Jiangnan University, with someone yelling Lu Donglai's name on repeat. Then, the professor demands the kid wake up right this second to solve the question on the board. Right then, the guy's eyes snap wide open in a panic, totally lost about where the heck he is. Because of this, the students whisper to each other that he's a total blockhead with zero hope. Sitting there totally dazed at his desk, he asks himself how he's still kicking. Telling the class to pipe down, the professor feels sorry that the famous Lu family has such a clueless heir. The students keep gossiping that, despite his dad's massive clout, the kid became the campus laughingstock. Hearing all that chatter, he realizes his soul has respawned into the body young Lu Donglai. Back in the day, he was known as Ye Tianji, a massive big shot in the cultivation universe. After grinding for over 5,000 years, he was just one step away from ascending to the heavens. But his run ended in a super tragic way thanks to a stab in the back from a super close ally. The one who did the deed was Shuangper, the Soul Emperor's Heir, someone he legit saw as family. Playing on his need for love and family, she totally cheap shot at him from behind. Boiling with rage, the master made sure no backstabber would walk away, even if it cost him his own existence. So, he went out with a bang, taking the traitor and all the demon lords present down with him. Since he scored a second chance at existing, he decides to use this new body to get his payback. Scanning the situation, he realizes the OG Lu Donglai wasn't actually born with rocks in his head. Somebody planted a toxic needle in the kid's brain to slowly mess up his nerves. From this, he figures out that such a precise and messed up procedure could only be pulled off by a pro. This gadget is what ended the run of the former host before he swooped in, and now he needs to yank it out ASAP. Knowing he always pays his debts, the master swears to avenge the kid and teach the person responsible a lesson they won't forget. Right then, the professor yells, super mad, asking what on earth he's doing and telling him to sit down immediately. Finding the whole thing hilarious, he thinks it's wild that a basic teacher is trying to boss him around. He thinks back to his boss days, when thousands of disciples would shake in their boots just being near him. Totally ignoring the professor, he just dips out of the classroom while the guy fumes with anger. Walking with purpose, he decides that from today on, the Yechie Tianji persona is cancelled. Strolling through the campus grounds, he starts to chill out and map out his next moves. Looking at modern society, he notices it's totally possible to live your best life even without cultivation. The biggest roadblock, though, is the lack of spiritual energy needed to get his powers back online. Sitting down to vibe, check the area, he realizes the spiritual energy on planet Earth is super scarce. Because of that, he decides his main quest is to extract that poison needle stuck in his brain. He heads straight for the college boys' dorm looking for absolute privacy. Stepping into the empty room, he locks the door to make absolutely sure nobody crashes his party. Since his roommates are stuck in class, he knows he's got the perfect window of time. Checking the clock, he guesses he has a little over 60 minutes until the school day wraps up. He decides to sit on the floor so the bed doesn't collapse under the sheer force of what he's about to pull off. He gets that the attacker used a super sneaky method, so the needle wouldn't show up on medical scans. But for a former sect leader of his tier, pulling the object out is a total piece of cake. Flexing his power, bluish spiritual flames start glowing all around the kid's body. Guided by his energy control, the needle, thin as a silk thread, starts wiggling its way out of his brain. Feeling the sting, he promises to end the person who dared to use such a twisted method on a kid. That piece of metal had been stuck in there forever, demanding a ton of his current energy to finally budge. The blue aura flares up hard around him right as the extraction hits its peak. The force blasting into the room puts some heavy cracks in the walls and completely busts the dorm clock. Letting out a tired sigh after popping the needle out, he realizes just how wrecked this body has been over the years. Totally drained from the physical toll, he completely passes out on the dorm floor right after. A little while later, our Tumemsi wakes up cozy in a hospital bed. Right then, he notices someone sleeping next to him and feels how weak his body still is. The girl resting there starts to wake up slowly when she notices him shifting in the bed. Looking at him with totally loving eyes, she wipes away the worried tears streaming down her face. Hyped to see him awake, she celebrates with major relief that her brother is finally back in action. Right after, she dashes down the hallway, frantically calling for the doctor in charge. The doc checks the kid out and says he's in good shape, just dealing with some mild mental burnout. The girl asks, super stressed, if they shouldn't run more tests, but the pro promises there's no need. Thrilled with the doc's thumbs up, she breaks out a glowing smile, realizing the scary part is over. He's low, key touch to be on the receiving end of such a loving look after thousands of years. Digging through Lu Donglai's memories, he remembers that Ye King, his adopted sister, always had his back. On the flip side, his biological parents tossed him to the curb without a second thought when they found out about his health issues. Finding it pretty cool that she shares the Yi last name, he instantly feels a bond with her. Watching the girl thank the doc, He swears he'll keep her safe from any drama from this moment forward. Next thing, the girl rushes over and gives him a huge bear hug on the bed, crying tears of relief that he's okay. He gives her a gentle pat on the face and tells her to turn off the waterworks so she doesn't look silly. His sister pulls back a little confused, thinking he's acting way different than his usual self. She notices the guy's eyes are practically glowing and full of life like never before. Seeing this, she straight up asks if he's finally left his clueless days behind. Playing it cool, the guy promises that from now on, her brother is a total mastermind. Brainstorming his next moves, he decides to go after everyone who tried to do them dirty. With a totally locked-in look, he promises that none of the bad guys are getting off the hook. The next day, classes go on as usual on the Shangjiang University campus. In the packed cafeteria, the students stare in absolute shock at the mountain of food piled on his table. He chows down fast and furious, completely ignoring the weirded-out looks from the people nearby. Even though his sister told him to chill at home, he knows he needs to make moves quickly. The students whisper that the campus goofball must have woken up with a monster appetite. Finishing his plate, he gets that he needs to get his energy back to fight whatever hidden enemy is out there. A bit later, outside the library, he gets himself sorted to start checking off his to-do list. He heads into the library aiming to do some digging and figure out the modern world he's living in now. Book in hand, he notices the spiritual vibe in the room is way too weak to level up normally. Right then, students nearby start making jokes, claiming he's just faking reading to flex for someone. Tuning out the haters, he hatches a plan to use basic medicinal plants to copy the alchemy tricks from his past life. Spotting a picture of a root in the book, he decides to hunt for everyday veggies that have the same vibes. A while later, back at the dorms, it gets dark and the clock hits past 1 in the morning. Chilling in the lotus position on the balcony, he starts channeling his spiritual energy under the moonlight. But he realizes his body's energy highways are totally jammed up with gunk. Without a second thought, he decides to blast all his stored power at once to flush those pathways clean. Locking in, a bright glow flashes in his eyes while he pulls off the move. Thanks to that, he hits the first tier of energy condensation, blowing past normal human senses. From here on out, the breeze and any sound within a 100-meter radius are completely under his radar. However, one of his roommates wakes up, wanders to the balcony, and is totally confused by the scene. The guy gets pretty spooked and asks why he's out there at witching hour instead of catching Z's. Then, the roommate tells him to hit the sack soon, pointing out they both have morning classes. Nodding calmly, Lu Donglai asks himself if the sound of his spiritual level up was too loud. The roommate stares at him, noticing a low-key glow up in the guy. The TNMC is worried that showing off his upgrade now might grab the attention of the haters still lurking around the school. But the roommate just cracks a joke about his fresh haircut, saying it looks good. Feeling super relieved, he realizes the dude only noticed the trim his sister gave him and laughs at his own paranoia. The FCMC jokes back, saying he's definitely looking sharper, but tells his buddy to head inside before he catches a cold. Heading back inside, he knows for a fact he needs to hit his max power again to be able to protect his family. Even knowing the grind will be lonely and sketchy, he swears to stay relentless with his spiritual glow up. The next morning, the sun is shining bright over the girls' dorm. Yaqiqing stares at her phone screen, super hyped and proud to see her brother solving crazy math problems like it's nothing. Suddenly, a roommate bursts in and teases her, asking if that big smile is because of a boyfriend. Shutting that down fast, she excitedly spills the tea that her brother finally got his senses back. The friend is shook, since she knew the guy's track record and didn't expect him to bounce back so fast. Annoyed by the mean rumors, the girl defends her bro, swearing he's got insane talent and everyone will be looking up to him soon. Right then, the friend shoves her own phone in her face, telling her she urgently needs to see something. She plays a video online where the guy is getting clowned for shadow boxing in the campus courtyard. Freaking out over the clip, Yaqiqing sprints outside to see what kind of mess is going down. At that exact moment, on the sports court, Lu Donglai is in the zone, throwing precise punches at the air. Nearby, a bunch of college kids are gossiping and pointing, thinking his fighting moves are a total joke. Focused on his routine, he knows that even though he's squishy compared to his past life, his current power is enough to fold any normal dude. All of a sudden, a beefy guy walks up looking for trouble and blocks his path. Unbothered, Lu Donglai just casually asks if he's in the guy's way. The challenger leans in and glares at him with a total "what are you gonna do about it" vibe. They're facing off in the middle of the court, pulling everyone's attention. Cold as ice, he asks who the guy is and what his deal is. The troublemaker gets sarcastic, saying his new look definitely doesn't match the loser everyone used to roast. Ignoring the cheap shot, the DMC just finds the whole thing incredibly boring and exhausting. The bully introduces himself as Avalin Kyun and demands he stay away from Yaqiqing from this second on. He keeps trashing him, saying a zero like him would only embarrass the girl. The MMC finds it pretty funny and ironic to see a basic mortal trying to talk down to the former boss of the universe's strongest faction. Keeping his cool, Lu Donglai points out that his sister's love life is her own business and tells the guy to get lost. The challenger loses it, thinking the guy is just backing out of protecting her, but the master snaps back, saying that as her brother, he'd only give his blessing to someone who actually deserves respect. That comment makes Lin Chun completely snap because his ego just took a direct hit. In his head, Lu Donglai thinks this clown wouldn't even be fit to mop the floors of his old sect. Going for the cheap shot, the bully tries to deck him with a surprise punch mid-sentence. The ace and MC just rolls his eyes at how pathetic it is to throw a sucker punch. He remembers the days when literal kings would drop to their knees and bow to him. Without breaking a sweat, he catches the guy's punch mid-air, amazed by the sheer audacity of a regular human trying to lay a hand on him. The bully's eyes go wide, completely unable to process how his attack got stopped with zero effort. Shutting down any chance of retreat, the EMC crushes the guy's hand with a vice grip. Then, he busts out a martial arts move and lands a clean strike right on the guy. The impact sends the bully flying to the ground, screaming his lungs out while clutching his wrecked arm. The crowd of students is horrified watching the school's toughest guy get absolutely humbled that fast. Walking away unbothered, the master shakes his head at how dumb regular folks are for messing with a cultivator. He knows the cultivation grind is a marathon, but his current level is plenty to deal with average humans. Meanwhile, a few students help Lin Kun peel himself off the floor. Trying to save face, the bully lies and says they were just doing some light sparring, adding he's gonna hit the clinic. But one dark look from the Daozum MC sends him into a panic, shutting him up completely. Terrified, he wonders how a random student could give off such scary boss energy. Shaking like a leaf, the bully asks for permission to leave, while everyone else just stares in disbelief. Stopping in his tracks, the MMC realizes this guy was sent by a third party just to rough him up. He demands the name of the real puppet master pulling the strings. Backed into a corner, Lin Kin admits he was hyped up by a guy named Dozen Lin Nazong, who fed him pictures of the siblings. Standing on business, the King MC decides to hunt down the culprit to settle the score, but a familiar shout interrupts him. Ye Keking comes sprinting onto the court, looking like she's having a meltdown over his safety. Running up to him, she grabs his shoulders and frantically checks for any scratches. Giving her a head pat, he promises he's totally fine and jokes that she's up way too early. But her face drops when she locks eyes with the bully lying on the ground. Going off, she absolutely unleashes on Lin Kin, making it crystal clear she never liked him. Pointing right at him, Ye Keking warns that if he ever tries to start drama with her brother again, she'll make him regret it. Hearing that, Lin Chun limps away mumbling that he'd be thrilled if the Thayer MCU wasn't the one bringing the drama. Right then, Ye Keking introduces Guru, her bestie, who shyly waves at the guy while he checks her out curiously. He spots that the girl has a rare body condition with blocked energy paths, meaning her clock is ticking fast. Noticing him zone out, his sister asks what's wrong, but he switches topics, thinking it's better not to get mixed up with her friend. The MMC mentioned plans to quickly track down the mastermind to see if this ties back to the Lethal Needle incident. He asks where the economics building is, and Guru points to a red brick spot, a little confused by the question. Heading toward the building, the MC says he's just going to take a quick peek to flush out all his hidden haters. Watching him walk away, Ye Keking gets the vibe that her brother really has leveled up and seems like a whole new person. The camera pans to the economics department, where classes go down in a huge red brick building. Inside, students are gossiping in shock about how the campus tough guy got packed up and sent to the clinic after getting totally embarrassed. Right then, Lin Nanhong, the heir to the powerhouse Lin family, agrees that their ops are using the kid for some shady plot. Boiling with low-key rage, the guy slams his fist into his desk, cracking the wood from the sheer force. Standing up fuming, he swears the situation doesn't matter, and that he'll personally take out this pawn. Chilling at the entrance, the master decides this is the perfect time to flex his real power for everyone to see. Stepping into the room with heavy main character energy, he formally introduces himself as Lu Donglai and announces he's a student there too. Staring down the class, the guy drops a cold line, saying any enemy sent his way is just a bug waiting to get squashed. He walks in with his hands in his pockets looking super menacing, completely killing the classroom vibes. Because of this, the professor angrily adjusts his glasses and tells the kid to get out immediately since the lecture is starting. Paying zero attention to the teacher, the master flexes his heavy aura and loudly asks who in the room goes by Lin Nanhong. At that moment, the college girls are whispering about how good looking he is, until one realizes he's the guy everyone calls the campus dummy. Glaring at the crasher, Lin Nanhong finds it insane that the guy actually had the guts to show his face there. Right away, three goons stand up cracking their knuckles to scare the intruder and show they're ready to throw down. One of the lackeys barks aggressively, that the kid isn't high enough level to fight the boss and dares him to get past them first. Totally unbothered, he easily dodges the first swing, thinking regular human speed is just too laggy. Wasting zero time, the Tamemsa throws a lightning fast, pinpoint punch straight into the first guy's face. The impact sends the attacker flying to the floor groaning in pain, while the master doesn't even break a sweat. Keeping his voice chill but scary, the guy warns everyone in the room he's only asking one time. He demands to know right now which one is Lin Nanhong, telling the dude to step up already. The students totally panic seeing a guy get folded that fast, wondering if this is actually the campus joke they knew. A few witnesses whisper that Lin Nanhong comes from a military family and has crazy combat stats, way above average. At that, the military Heir steps up acting all tough and admits the whole school had completely slept on the JMC's power until now. He takes off his jacket to flex his muscles and officially drops his name as Lin Nanhong, radiating some intense boss fight energy. The crowd sees his crazy build and figures the MC just signed his own game, over screen by making him mad. The professor frantically tries to step in, demanding to know what the heck these two think they're doing in his classroom. Oozing confidence, Lin Nanhong tells the teacher to chill and promises to wrap this up real quick. Looking at his opponent, the fighter asks if he'd rather catch these hands in the courtyard or somewhere more low-key, but the master shoots the offer down, saying there's no need to leave since the classroom has plenty of space. Dripping with sarcasm, he tells his rival to just spit out who ordered the hit, so he might go a little easier on the beatdown. The military guy bursts into a villain laugh at the sheer audacity and promises to show the kid there are people you just don't mess with. Kicking off the fight, the brawler throws a brutal punch at the MCG, who just shakes his head at the enemy's stubbornness. He literally just tracks the incoming hit, judging that it's all muscle and zero actual skill. With absolute ease, the Sir MC raises his arm and catches the attacker's fist mid-air like it's nothing. The rival's eyes practically pop out of his head, totally unable to process how his ultimate attack got blocked by a guy who didn't even move an inch. Frantically trying to pull back, the military guy realizes the kid's grip is like a steel trap he can't break out of. Taking advantage of the guy's wide-open stance, the master delivers a kick so fast it makes the air whip. Thanks to the crazy force of the hit, the young soldier gets launched backward, without a single second to block. He ends up crashing hard into the desks and chairs at the back of the room, turning everything to splinters with his heavy fall. The college kids scream in terror watching the scariest fighter on campus get totally clowned and sent flying with one hit. The teacher points a shaking finger at the Dar MC toes, yelling that he's snitching to the dean about this cheap shot right now. While the rest of the students are terrified of the Lin family's revenge, the Dem MC Chiyus just stands there looking completely chill and majestic. The kids keep whispering that the guy just ruined his own life, since even the school board is scared of the loser's family. Laying in the rubble, the defeated fighter struggles to get up while the master walks over with zero chill. Crouching next to the wrecked opponent, the guy says out loud that the person who ordered the hit is definitely from the Lin family. Shaking with fear at the MC's cold stare, the young guy chokes out a question asking what he's planning to do next. Dead serious, the master warns that if he ever wants a rematch, he needs to come at him directly and leave his family out of it. Without hesitating, he grabs both of the guy's arms at once and uses insane strength to dislocate them in a split second. The military kid lets out an agonizing scream that echoes through the room while collapsing helplessly on the floor. Looking down at his rival in pain, the KMC asks casually if, after losing his two arms, he's finally ready to take the L. Bawling his eyes out, the guy admits he got totally owned, begs for mercy, and promises to never go near the Lu family again. Harshly correcting the guy's mistake, the master reminds him his real family name is Yi, making the dude redo his promise. Happy with that answer, the guy stands up, thinking that if he didn't have this kind of power, his beloved sister would still be getting harassed. With that handled, he calmly strolls toward the door, leaving his wrecked attacker on the floor while the whole class watches in shock. Stopping at the door for a second, the HMMC shoots one last silent look that makes every student shiver in absolute fear of his power. Furious at his useless crew, the injured guy screams at them to stop staring and rush him to the hospital ASAP. The teacher yells angrily, swearing the attacker will face serious consequences for putting a classmate in the hospital during a lecture. Right then, a student blurts out that the crasher is actually the infamous campus dummy, leaving the professor completely baffled. The teacher fixes his glasses, wondering how a kid known for being clueless could act with so much swagger and power. A bit later, the scene jumps to a totally different classroom on the other side of campus. One of Kiking's friends rushes in and tells her to check the school's social feed, hyping up her brother's crazy stunt. Grabbing her phone to check the timeline, the girl watches the fight footage and reads all the comments hyping up his skills. So proud of her big brother, she totally fangirls, seeing that he really did level up into an absolute beast. But her friend stresses her out, warning her about the defeated guy's military family and saying this win is gonna bring massive drama. Realizing things just got real, the girl decides to frantically text the MC to warn him about the incoming danger. Meanwhile, the guy is just taking a chill walk across campus, totally ignoring the official penalty notices pinned to the boards. The guy picks up the phone wondering what a school penalty has to do with him and asks who's calling. On the other end, Yikiking is screaming his name, making him ask her to lower her volume. Rushed and panicked, Yikiking warns that the guy he beat up is from a major military family that will 100% want payback. Totally unbothered, the ChiMMC claims he's waded through oceans of drama in his past life and isn't scared of some weak human influence. Terrified, his sister begs him not to drop out, but he lets her know he's already out the gate, making her sprint after him. Hanging up, Lu Donglai walks with purpose, enjoying the breeze and completely focused on grinding his power level even higher. At the clinic, the injured fighter's mom goes absolutely ballistic, seeing the wrecked state her precious Heir is in. Right then, the lady screams out of control, blaming Lu Donglai for going too far and asking if the kid lost his mind. Boiling with pure rage, the guy tells his mom to keep this from his dad, so he can personally finish the MCs off. The injured kid's uncle shows up furious that some outcast from the Lu family had the nerve to lay a finger on his nephew. Grinding his teeth, the fighter swears revenge so he doesn't completely lose his street cred at school. Meanwhile, the master looks at his own hand, knowing that even against basic mortals, he can't slack off. He clenches his fist hard, deciding his main goal is to quickly heal this body since it's still way too fragile for his big plans. Standing on the sidewalk, this MC confidently hails a cab to move on to the next phase. Hopping in, he tells the driver to step on it and take him to the nearest traditional herb shop. On the way, he plans to boost his physical stats even more as soon as he cooks up his pills. Shortly after, the car pulls up to a local spot famous for old-school natural remedies. At the counter, the MC lists off a bunch of rare plants, leaving the worker super confused since he doesn't have a prescription. Not wanting to waste breath explaining, he just commands the worker to bag up everything he asked for ASAP. Walking back through the streets, he groans about blowing all his savings just to buy those herbs. Deep in thought, the guy realizes he needs a quiet spot to craft the pills, but he's completely broke. Just then, two girls come running down the street in a panic when they spot him taking a chill walk on the sidewalk. Surprised to run into Yikiking there, he listens to the girl ask if he totally robbed the store because of his massive shopping bag. Figuring it's meant to be, he uses the chance to ask the girl for an emergency loan. The two girls freeze up, completely thrown off by the guy asking for cash out of nowhere. The Eversy MC Kata keeps it real and explains he needs to rent a spot to work with the stuff he just bought. Digging through her bag, his sister mentions she has a little over $1,000 saved up, which he knows isn't gonna cut it. In her head, the girl figures the herbs must be super important for her brother's mental recovery. Right then, her friend Guru steps up shyly and hands over her own debit card, which has over $4,000 on it. Handing the card over on the down low, the girl whispers the PN and asks him not to stress his sister out. Checking the girl out, the master notices she has a rare health issue that's going to cap her lifespan at just 22 years. Super thankful, he swears to pay back every cent in a few weeks, while she insists he shouldn't stress about it. The friend keeps wondering why she feels so much trust in the crazy boss energy the guy gives off. Walking alone, the MMC knows that cash represents the life savings of this super modest girl. He figures he owes her big time, and that karma will make sure everything works out. Thinking about the girl's serious condition, he knows any normal person would have given up on saving her from fading away. Stepping up to the plate, the former Supreme Cultivator promises to use his skills to prevent her time from running out early. Right after, he tracks down a rundown, sketchy apartment building on the outskirts of town. Talking to the landlord, he locks in the rent at $600 and drops $1,800 to move in right away. Stepping into the basic room, he knows he's got to focus on his spiritual grind to secure the bag quickly. Even though the place is basically a dump, the master admits the total isolation is perfect for what he needs to do. Right then, he sets a pot of water to boil on a portable stove in the middle of the room. Locked in on his alchemy, he remembers the 3 golden rules to make sure the refining process is absolutely flawless. He gets that the quality of each plant and the exact heat are clutch for unlocking their healing buffs. Raising his right hand, the MC makes the ingredients float in the air, wrapped in a soft blue glow. The master splits the ingredients into 3 parts, making sure each one gets the right heat before mixing them all together. He's low-key bummed that the lack of magical power on Earth nerfs the medicine, but stays locked in on the task. Flexing all his ancient knowledge, he works the flames like a pro to finish the first batch of meds super fast. But a loud crash from the apartment door totally kills the chill vibe of his ritual. Hearing the heavy hit on the door, The guy instantly knows these random intruders are only here with shady goals. With a massive kick, the wooden door gets blasted open by goons rushing the place like animals. 3 armed guys bust into the room, totally roasting the dump of an apartment the guy picked as a hideout. Right then, the head honcho points at the Yarjum MC, bragging they found the exact guy they were hunting in the city. One of the masked lackeys raises an iron pipe, ready to swing without even trying to talk it out. Keeping his cool, Lu Donglai just complains that these thugs ruined the most delicate part of his medicine prep. He warns them he's not about to waste his precious time on basic criminals and squares up for an instant brawl. Without blinking, the Simemse dashes forward at crazy speed and throws a devastating punch straight into the enemy's face. Riding the momentum, he pulls off a spinning martial arts move, blasting a wave of air that knocks the enemies back. Thanks to the raw power of the combo, the attacker lets out a yell of pain while getting launched across the room. The goon's body slams hard onto the concrete floor, knocking him out cold, right in the middle of the hallway. Right after dropping the guy, he bends down to make absolutely sure the stove's temp is still perfect. Catching a weird magical vibe from the blonde leader, the master wonders if there are other cultivators hiding out on Earth. The blonde boss smirks, giving the TMC props for his physical toughness after surviving his earlier hit. Blocking a lightning fast kick with his arm, the guy figures out the opponent isn't actually a real spiritual cultivator. He realizes the enemy just farmed life energy after a long physical grind and admits he underestimated normal humans a bit. Digging through the original host's memories, he figures out the enemy is part of a fighter class known as martial artists. Even though they're weaker than spiritual masters, these fighters easily outclass any regular person. Noticing the guy's defensive stance, the blonde fighter mocks him for trying to protect that busted old cooking pot. Pulling a sneaky move, the attacker kicks right at the stove, forcing the master to body block it. Worried about ruining his alchemy run, he's annoyed he's this close to finishing and running on fumes. Taking advantage of the guy's open guard, the opponent lands a heavy blow straight to the MC's chest. The impact sends the guy flying into the room's wall, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. A thick fog of dust and smoke covers the whole room, bringing a heavy silence to the place for a second. Stepping out of the wreckage with a smirk, the master pops the freshly made golden pill, calling it a major W. A massive wave of spiritual power explodes around him, leaving the blonde attacker completely shook by the light show. He decides to use the fighter as a test dummy for his new stats after hitting the second tier of condensation. Right then, the fighter starts sweating bullets, absolutely terrified by the overwhelming aura and realizing this kid feels like a completely different being. Walking up looking like a boss, Lu Donglai calmly asks if the opponent is ready to meet his maker. Staring down the threat, the attacker decides it's now or never and makes a move. The enemy throws a palm strike, while the guy notices that even back in his old universe, he hadn't seen this specific move. Totally unfazed, Lu Donglai shuts down the frontal attack looking incredibly bored, using just one precise motion. With a loud crack, the attacker drops to the floor screaming over his broken hand, while the master realizes just how insane his new power level is. Panicking, the attacker screams that this kind of power doesn't belong to a normal student and demands to know who he really is. Then, Lu Donglai brings his glowing hand right up to the enemy's face and tells him to shut his mouth for good. He drops a cold warning that nobody on Earth has the right to question him, making the enemy whimper in pure terror. Flexing golden flames in his hands, the master demands to know who sent him to take him out, threatening him with something way worse. Just to flex his power, he obliterates some nearby furniture with an energy beam and warns the guy he's next. Coughing hard and paralyzed with fear, the guy realizes he's not playing games against the 1000 MC Cow's overwhelming power. Embarrassed on the floor, he snitches that he was paid by Lin Nanhong, a guy from the powerful Lin family, and begs not to be finished off. The master figures the military family's payback arrived way earlier than he thought, but doesn't even look surprised. Swearing to hit back twice as hard later, the master glares at the terrified attacker shaking in his boots. Right then, the hostage tries to force a smile and asks if he can dip now that he spilled all the tea. Lu Donglai agrees to let him go with just one condition, making the enemy sweat knowing this wasn't going to be easy. Pointing at his completely trashed room and the knocked out goons, he demands cash to cover the damages. The guy is absolutely shook that this insanely OP kid is only asking for money to let things slide. As soon as he asks if there's any problem, the enemy rushes to agree to everything without a second thought. Kicking his own crew to wake them up fast, the leader orders them to send all their cash to the young master. Next thing, a bank transfer notification pops up on the screen, proving the money dropped. Showing the receipt on his phone, the attacker nervously asks if they can bounce, and hears the kid tell them to get lost. The thugs scramble out the door in a panic, just wanting to get as far away from this monster as humanly possible. Hitting the street, a lackey asks if they're just going to quit the job, but the furious leader asks if he seriously wants to go back in there. The gang leader realizes that just knowing how to throw punches is useless against a ridiculously overpowered family. Back in the room, Lu Donglai admits that on Earth, money and clout are basically superpowers too. Looking at the empty bottles, he's a bit salty. The medicine only got him to the second tier without fully locking it in. He stares at the last bit of the stuff in his hand, wondering if this tiny drop is really all that's left. Without hesitating, the guy downs the rest of the pills to speed run his spiritual recovery. Sitting in a meditative pose surrounded by golden flames, he focuses on locking in his power so he doesn't lose his progress. With his power surging, the master tanks the massive physical strain of grinding cultivation. Out of nowhere, a crazy magical eye skill unlocks in his mind while he's training. Shook, the master realizes his body cleansing routine accidentally triggered a hidden bloodline in this body called the Jechu demonic Ayak. This legendary perk lets him see the true stats of everything and expose its original form. He turns on his new X-ray vision and scans the room, mind blown by the mystical cheat code he just scored. Looking at the junk in his run-down room, he tests the magic eye on an old wall phone. Super hyped. The guy admits this insane skill is something he was dying to have even in his past life. But spamming the eye skill drains his mana crazy fast, making the glow fizzle out in seconds. Holding his tired head, he's bummed that his current level only lets him use the hack for a few seconds at a time. He starts doing the math on his massive upcoming bills for herbs, room repairs, and living expenses. Flopping on his back on the floor, the master groans that in the mortal realm, everything is pay to win. Right then, his phone dings, grabbing the attention of the guy chilling on the floor. Checking the screen, he sees a news story about some dude who got filthy rich after finding a rare antique vase. Seeing a golden opportunity, the guy decides to use his eye hack to hunt for vintage loot and make some fast cash. Wasting zero time, the master leaves the apartment, ready to hit the local antique market right now. Walking through the packed aisles of the traditional market, he hopes to find some hidden gems tucked away. Taking a deep breath, the guy tries to catch any leftover magical vibes coming from the old junk. Focusing his mind, the MC Farin turns on his eye hack and lets the magic glow take over his vision again. A sketchy vendor tries to hustle him into buying a decorated vase for 30,000 coins, swearing it's from some ancient empire. Using his vision hack, the master scans the vase's stats to see if it's actually legit. His skill instantly shows it's a totally worthless fake, made just to scam clueless tourists. After he calls out the obvious flaws, the annoyed vendor complains that the kid is just acting like a know-it-all. Looking around, he realizes almost everything here is trash and the market is full of scams and useless junk. Feeling the burnout, he admits he needs to be smarter about using his magic before his mana hits zero. Right then, the guy catches a super faint magical pulse coming from a booth a little further down. He spots a dark, clunky metal block with an emerald glow inside, proving he found exactly what he was looking for. The TMC stares at the ugly chunk of metal and celebrates finding leftover spiritual energy, which is super rare in today's world. While checking out the rock, he notices a buff dude in military gear walking by and sees he's built different. Watching the guy walk away, he figures Earth has way more martial arts fighters than he originally thought. The vendor shows off his stuff and mentions prices are negotiable, making the master cook up a plan to buy the block without looking suspicious. Strolling over casually, the guy asks for the prices of the stuff on display to start the haggling game. Thinking the kid is an easy mark, the vendor plans to ask for an insanely high price to make some quick cash. So the seller slaps crazy price tags on a necklace and a fan, making the Kemen sarcastically complain about the rip-off. Holding his phone, he decides to use the fan as the perfect decoy to snag the iron block he actually wants. He offers to buy the fan if the vendor throws in the iron block for free, and the seller agrees instantly, thinking he just scored a massive W. After paying for the fan, the guy secretly hypes himself up for scoring enough power to craft a solid magic item. Then, the master pops open the fan and realizes it's hiding another massive secret the vendor totally missed. He sees that the fan is actually a legit piece of history, and that he'll be able to flip it for crazy money later. Out of nowhere, people start screaming for a doctor after someone suddenly passes out on the street. A crowd gathers around an unconscious older man, while his grandson frantically screams for help. The panicked kid orders his military bodyguard to call the paramedics ASAP to get some backup. Watching the drama unfold, the master notices how the huge bodyguard takes orders from the kid and figures their family must have serious clout. Deciding not to get dragged into other people's mess, the guy keeps walking, focused on getting home to forge his item. A bounty of $100,000 is announced for anyone who can save the old man, making the master stop dead in his tracks. Doing the math on that payout, the MSEV realizes he finally has a solid reason to step in and save the guy. The relative totally loses it when the bodyguard says the ambulance is still 10 minutes away. Right then, the kid screams in a panic, asking if there's any doctor in the crowd who can do some first aid. But everyone backs away, saying they aren't pros and nobody wants to catch a lawsuit if things go wrong. Seeing his family member fading fast, the grandson panics and is crushed that nobody can save him from the ultimate game over. Suddenly, a boss Eve orders everyone to make way right now so that the Sanj can step through. Hearing that, the nosy crowd steps back, intimidated by someone rolling up with so much confidence. Lu Donglai steps up looking majestic and confidently announces he's totally capable of saving the old guy. The family kid looks at him shook and asks if he's actually a certified doctor who knows what he's doing. But the master keeps it real, saying he doesn't have a medical degree, but promises he can easily fix the man. Right then, the bodyguard aggressively warns him not to make things worse if he can't handle the fallout. Ignoring the threat, the Say MC moves fast and grabs the arm of the soldier trying to block him. He drops a heavy warning that if they keep wasting time, the old man is literally going to run out of time. The soldier is completely mind blown, unable to process how this kid just locked him down with so much raw strength. Impressed by the kid's crazy stats, the guard backs off, and the master orders them to sit the old man up. Lu Donglai figures that even with his spiritual mana running low, he's got enough in the tank to clear the blocked veins. Channeling his magic, blue spiritual flames start wrapping around the master's hand. With a quick, precise swipe, he fires all that gathered energy to pull off his mystic trick. The S&MC lands a solid energy strike right on the man's back to bust open his blocked energy flow. Because of the heavy hit, the old man coughs up a huge amount of dark blood that was stuck in his chest. The kid freaks out seeing this and screams for his grandpa, thinking the guy just made things 10 times worse. Seeing red, the bodyguard lunges at the 1000 demanding to know what he just did. But Lu Donglai just effortlessly side steps the soldier's attack with perfect movement. At that moment, the soldier whiffs the punch and almost faceplants, totally stunned by the kid's insane speed. Scrambling to regain his balance, the guy angrily barks that the DMMC isn't getting out of there. But the master moves at god-tier speed, catching the enemy off guard before he can even think about attacking again. Pointing a finger right at the guy's forehead, he drops a cold warning that his best bet is to stay frozen if he wants to keep breathing. The guard breaks into a cold sweat and freezes up, unable to comprehend how a normal kid has such glitchy speed. Suddenly, a shaky voice from behind orders the two of them to drop the beef right now. The old man wakes up coughing a bit, which makes his relative incredibly relieved to see him back online. Feeling way better, the older guy mentions that the crushing weight on his chest is totally gone. He orders the guard to stand down and admits the kid is the one who saved his life. The old man is super grateful and promises to reward the Dunny MC gun, but Lu Donglai just asks for the money they agreed on. Hearing that, the crowd whispers in shock that the guy is just straight up asking for the bag. The master asks if they're gonna honor the payout, and the relative nods, still completely shook. Finding the kid's bluntness hilarious, the old man praises his hustle and says he respects people who get straight to the point. Right after, he tells his guard Chen Yang to hand the cash over to the kid immediately. Handing over a thick stack of red bills, the soldier says thanks for the save, and the Dajan MC takes the cash, acting like it was no big deal. The bystanders stare with major envy at the huge stack of cash the kid just scored for a quick rescue. Holding the bills, he's amazed that there are still people walking around with this much physical cash. With the quest complete, the Tagum MC says peace out, mentioning they'll probably cross paths again someday. But the old man asks him to hold up a second before bouncing. He explains he's dealing with a heavy heart condition that all the top docs say is basically unfixable. Staring hopefully at the master, the older guy asks straight up if he has the skills to cure his illness. Lu Donglai stays quiet for a sec, thinking over the offer while keeping completely chill. He figures the guy's sickness is just old age kicking in, but knows his custom meds can easily fix it. With zero hesitation, the master confidently replies that he can 100% cure the guy. The relative and the guard are floored, remembering that not even the most high-tech hospitals could pull that off. The MC flexes that regular doctors being clueless doesn't nerf his skills, and asks what the payout is. Holding up one finger, the man offers 1 million a year, if the kid can guarantee him 20 years more on the clock. But the master holds up a finger too and corrects the price, saying the flat rate is 100,000 a year, adding up to 2 million. The crowd thinks asking for $2 million is an absolutely insane flex for a kid. Right then, the old man bursts out laughing, finding the whole negotiation super entertaining. He announces that 2 million is absolute pocket change, letting the Gutcham MCs know this guy has serious boss money. The old man agrees instantly and asks for the kid's bank details to wire the funds tomorrow. But the TMMC rejects the wire, claiming he doesn't do digital money and prefers hard cash. He tells them to bring the full amount in physical bills to this exact spot in 48 hours so he can finish the treatment. The man agrees to the terms with no complaints and asks for the young master's name. Walking away unbothered, the MCF just drops that his family name is Lu before heading out. The grandson nervously asks if they can actually trust the guy, and the grandpa asks if he didn't feel his insane aura. The guard Chen Yang admits the kid's power is way higher than his own, and his healing skills are straight up hacks. Smiling, the man says he was in the military for a long time and his vibe check never fails. The old man realizes the kid is built different, while Lu Donglai walks down the street thinking today was a massive W. Holding his magic rock, he plans to clear all his debts with the 2 million he's about to collect. Suddenly, the master hears some sketchy footsteps trying to sneak up behind him. Locking in his upgraded senses, he notices exactly 3 guys tailing him closely. He guesses these stalkers are keeping a steady distance of about 30 meters from where he is. Completely unfazed, the guy tries to figure out who sent this squad to tail him through the city. He wonders if they're Lin Nanhong's goons, or if they were sent by the rich guy he just saved. Hearing the familiar footsteps, he realizes the stalkers are the exact same dudes he folded a little while ago. The bruised boss warns his crew about the kid's terrifying power, reminding them their current quest doesn't involve throwing hands. The spy squad watches the MMC turn down an empty alleyway and decides to follow him in. Finding their stubbornness hilarious, he decides there's no reason to hold back his punches on them anymore. The master strolls into the dark, empty space totally chill, waiting for the guys to catch up so he can end this. Right then, footsteps echo in the empty hall, and 3 shadowy figures pop up right behind the Gum MC. The squad leader smirks, asking if Lu Donglai really didn't expect them to slide on him again. Not showing an ounce of fear, Lu Donglai answers honestly that he really didn't see them coming back. Flexing a heavy aura, he asks how a defeated enemy still has the guts to show their face around him. The lackeys take a step back, totally spooked by the sudden vibe shift and the crazy pressure coming from the kid. Grinding his teeth in anger, the leader tries to hide how stressed he is by the AM Samsung's boss level presence. Furious, the goons yell to stop talking and rush in full force to cancel the kid right now. At that moment, the trio sprints at Lu Donglai, ready to start a brawl in the alley. Watching them charge, he sees they have above average stats, but they're still way under leveled to handle his energy. He wonders what their game plan is, since the boss knows just 2 lackeys aren't nearly enough to take him down. Terrified, the men scream, not understanding how the kid just teleported right in front of them. Using the tight space, Lu Donglai pops up between the goons and lands flawless hits on both of them at the same time. Thanks to the overwhelming force, the lackeys get launched through the air, screaming in absolute agony. Immediately, the boss pulls out a blade and charges in a rage, screaming he's taking the MC down with him. Even with a knife flying at him, Lu Donglai just watches the attack with ice in his veins, not showing a drop of panic. Using just 2 fingers, Lu Donglai catches the blade mid-air, perfectly blocking the attack without a single scratch. Staring calmly at the stunned attacker, the master reminds him he let him slide once and asks what he's trying to prove now. Giving him 0 time to talk, he delivers a heavy strike that makes the blonde leader cough up blood and sends him flying backward. While the enemy writhes on the floor, Lu Donglai demands to know how much Lin Nanhong paid him to pull such a suicidal move. Despite his injuries, the guy starts laughing like a maniac and swears the kid is definitely done for this time. Curious about why this beaten down thug is so confident, the Severmem Taz asks what he's talking about. Out of nowhere, flashing red and blue lights light up the alley, along with the loud blare of police sirens. Right then, a bunch of cop cars quickly block the exit, catching the eye of the MNC Chevin, who takes in the scene. A cop with a mustache jumps out of the cruiser yelling for everyone to freeze and orders them to get on the ground with hands behind their heads. He figures his current stats aren't high enough to tank bullets yet, and fighting the cops would just bring unnecessary drama. The officers aim their weapons at the kid and loudly demand he put his hands up right away. While getting cuffed, Lu Donglai gets suspicious about how fast the cops showed up right after the fight started. The kid tries to explain he was the one getting jumped and that the knife belonged to the thugs, but the cop ignores him and arrests everybody. Angry, the cop yells, asking how the weapon ended up in his hands if he's innocent, claiming the evidence speaks for itself. Refusing to listen to reason, the cops toss Lu Donglai and the injured goons straight into the cruisers parked on the street. Flashing a troll smile, the thug leader whispers that the Duddy MC's run is finally over. With that, the police cruiser rolls down the busy streets toward the local precinct. Chilling in the backseat, Lu Donglai straight up asks what kind of scam they're trying to pull. Lighting a cigarette with a sneer, the cop fires back that the kid should already know whose bad side he got on. Hearing the ACMC drop Lin Nanhong's name, the cop smirks, admitting the kid isn't entirely clueless. The cop mocks him, saying a dumped puppet from the Lu family had no right to disrespect the Lin Heir, and that against the military family's massive power and connections, whatever skills he has are totally useless. Quietly furious, the master promises himself he'll make Lin Nanhong pay double for this disrespect later. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the city hospital, where the injured military Heir is recovering from his beatdown. Back-turned, the rival asks if the plan is in motion, and his buddy confirms Lu Donglai got locked up by the cops without a hitch. Flashing an evil look, the military kid swears the guy will soon realize how badly he messed up by getting in his way. At that moment, the cruiser drives through downtown while the Vasan MCA keeps plotting his next moves. Trying to reschedule, Lu Donglai casually mentions it would be a lot better if they arrested him in 48 hours instead. The driver thinks that's hilarious and asks if the kid still hasn't figured out that the Lin Heir is running the show here. Keeping his scary boss energy, the master advises them to let him go right now if they want to keep their government jobs. The master drops a heavy warning that if they keep acting stubborn, in 48 hours he'll make them all seriously regret their life choices. Right then, a super dark energy fills the car, giving the cops an instant chill down their spines. Shaking it off, the cop yells, asking who this kid thinks he is to threaten them with that garbage. The driver nervously asks if the kid actually has some real backup, but the leader brushes it off, swearing the Lin Heir holds all the cards. A little later, the car reaches its destination, parking right in front of the massive West District Police Station. Yanking the back door open, the guard barks at the kid to get out of the car right this second. Showing off the arrested kid to the station boss, the lead cop gets props for bagging the guy so fast. Right then, the chief mentions the paperwork is already faked and orders them to toss the kid straight into cell 137. Catching onto their whole setup, Lu Donglai asks if they aren't scared of getting busted for planting fake evidence and dodging the rules. Just flashing a fake, evil laugh, the officer shows zero respect for the law or doing the right thing. He brags that inside this station, he's the absolute boss, meaning there's zero chance a random student can change anything. With a smirk, the boss orders them to stash the kid's stuff so he can't try any slick moves. While walking the prisoner down the hall, the cops whisper that this cell is full of psycho criminals and the kid is totally screwed. Walking in silence, the team MC Duff perfectly understands that his haters specifically picked this cell for him. Stopping in front of the heavy iron door of 137, the master figures there's a super obvious trap waiting inside. Locking it up, the guards joke around, telling him to make friends, and yell at the inmates not to cause too much trouble. With that, the massive metal door slams shut with a heavy thud, completely cutting the MC Ozan off from the outside world. The pitch black room is only broken by several pairs of glowing eyes, glaring at the new guy with pure malice. One of the inmates warns the cell boss that the kid sent by the Lin Heir for VIP punishment just arrived. The head inmate just grunts, flashing his metal teeth and oozing total confidence. He orders his goons to step up and show the fresh meat exactly how things work in this dark hole. Scanning his enemies, Lu Donglai wonders just how much cash Lin Nanhong dropped to buy thugs of this tier. Walking up with a mocking grin, the huge guy with a mohawk gets super annoyed when he realizes the kid is completely ignoring him. Triggered by the kid's disrespect, the bully violently grabs his shoulder and demands he bow down to the boss right now. Without breaking his ice cold stare, Lu Donglai demands the meathead take his hand off and back up permanently. The bully swears that even if he wasn't getting paid, he'd still absolutely wreck the kid today just for fun. Kicking off the fight, the bully throws a brutal punch right at the master's face, who effortlessly dodges it. With insane reflexes, the guy uses the enemy's missed swing to grab his arm hard before he can even react. Putting crushing pressure on the guy's joint, the dim MC Delza makes the enemy scream in pure agony as his bone snaps. Collapsing to the floor, the attacker grabs his broken arm howling in pain, while the rest of the inmates just freeze. In the dark of cell 137, the other prisoners surround the new kid as the tension hits the ceiling. Right then, Scar, the dreaded boss of the block, steps up, looks the MNC Chuz up and down, and admits the kid actually has some skills. Gripping the kid's shoulder hard, the massive dude warns that even a legendary boss monster has to bow down when they step into his territory. He keeps up the trash talk, swearing he's gonna break every bone in the kid's body, making him beg for it all to end, without being able to clock out for good. With that, the boss promises the kid is gonna feel the brutal consequences of disrespecting the powerful young Lin. From outside, the inmates yell through the bars, hyped to see some serious damage, and cheering on the boss's beatdown. The leader demands Lu Donglai drop to his knees right now and kiss his shoes if he wants an easier punishment. Suddenly, the kid moves in the blink of an eye and delivers a heavy strike that swats the massive guy's hand away like it's nothing. Looking at his opponent like he's trash, Lu Donglai asks if he's too dumb to understand a basic warning and tells him to get out of his face. The cell boss grinds his teeth in pure rage at the kid's sheer audacity to challenge his absolute rule. Furious at the disrespect, Scar orders all his goons to jump the kid at once and break every bone in his body for good. He reminds them the Lin Heir gave them a blank check to do whatever they want to the kid, and that playtime has officially started. Following the boss's orders, the prisoners charge at the kid together, ready to dish out some serious pain. Tracking the mob's movement, Lu Donglai catches the smell of violence on all of them and realizes nobody here deserves an ounce of mercy. Because of that, an intense blue magical energy starts flaring up around the MCM's arm for the incoming brawl. Covered in blue mystic flames, Lu Donglai decides there's zero reason to hold back against such twisted thugs. Right then, two goons rush him full of rage, throwing punches to drop him to the floor once and for all. Moving like a blur, the TMC easily dodges the strikes, hitting them with precise counters that leave the enemies dizzy. Taking total advantage of the guy's wide, open guard, he lands a direct hit that makes the first enemy scream in pain. Another prisoner yells for the gang to attack all at once, giving the kid zero time to breathe or block during the fight. Totally unfazed, the master catches one guy's leg in mid-air while blocking another dude's punch at the exact same time. Using devastating power, he shatters the bones in both enemies' arms and legs in a split second like it's absolutely nothing. The goons collapse screaming in pure agony on the cell floor the second they realize their bones just got obliterated by the counter. Dropped on the ground and crying in pain, the thugs mourn their busted bones while the kid stands tall without a single scratch. Keeping his totally chill expression, the master figures this pathetic level of physical skill could never teach him anything. Annoyed that his crew got packed up, Scar grinds his teeth in anger and roasts his gang, calling them a bunch of useless scrubs. The huge guy decides to rip off his prison shirt and steps up to the front, walking toward the kid like an absolute unit. Flexing his massive muscles, the leader claims he'll have to handle this mess himself to put an end to it. Lu Donglai just looks at him with zero respect and warns him that, if he really wants to throw down, he should stop yapping and make a move. Charging in with pure hatred, Scar throws a crushing punch right at the master's face, screaming at him to eat it. Tracking the insane speed of the attack, the kid notices it's way too fast and realizes Scar is definitely a martial arts fighter. Easily dodging the hit, the master feels bad that the guy is just pure muscle, without any actual martial arts technique. The big guy loses it over the dodge and yells for the kid to pay close attention to his ultimate signature move. Channeling his life force, the giant uses his bull charge technique, while a massive purple aura flares up right behind him. Lu Donglai sees this as the perfect opening and plans to use the impact of the rival's attack to lock in his second tier of condensation. Because of that, the Chi MC blocks the enemy's aggressive rush with just one hand, creating a shockwave that echoes through the whole cell. The prison boss's eyes practically bulge out of his head, totally unable to process how his ultimate move got cancelled halfway like it was nothing. Giving him zero time to recover, the kid crushes the enemy's hand with an iron grip, brutally snapping the attacker's bones with absolute ease. The musclehead lets out a desperate scream of pain, begging the master to let his arm go right now. Dropped to his knees in front of the HMNC Gov, the attacker groans in deep pain, realizing he has literally zero defense against this kind of power. Exploiting the completely shattered defense, the master lands a devastating kick straight to the enemy's chest with brutal force. Thanks to the destructive power of the strike, the giant's body gets launched backward, slamming hard into the concrete wall of the cell. Knocked down and spitting blood, the defeated boss struggles to catch his breath while watching the master walk up with pure menace. Standing right over the wrecked enemy, Lu Donglai asks with terrifying calm if he still wants to keep fighting. At that moment, the attacker wipes the blood off his face with pure spite and pulls out a hidden blade, swearing the duel isn't over yet. Blinded by rage with the knife in hand, the attacker lunges at the kid, screaming that he's taking him out right here. Showing zero signs of panic, the master just closes his eyes for a second, feeling bad for the enemy's completely clueless stubbornness. Pulling an insane move, Lu Donglai catches the blade bare-handed with his left hand, stopping the attack cold without getting a single cut. The massive guy completely loses his mind, seeing the kid stop a metal knife with just his hands, absolutely terrified of what he's looking at. Asking if this basic tool was his only hope for winning, the kid snaps the metal blade into pieces using just his fingers. Watching from a distance, the other inmates shake with fear, wondering if this totally normal-looking kid is even human. Totally broken and holding his bleeding arm, Scar drops to his knees the second the master demands to know who sent the gang to take him out. Turning to the rest of the inmates in the dark room, the kid asks with heavy boss energy who else wants to try their luck against him. Instantly, a red-haired prisoner throws himself on the floor, begging for mercy because they didn't realize how overpowered the master was. The rest of the inmates bow down, begging for their lives, and quickly confess that Lin Nanhong bought them off to rough him up. Wanting all the tea on this plot, Lu Donglai asks what kind of perks the military Heir offered them. Terrified, Scar admits the young Lin promised a payout of 100,000 coins, plus a sweet deal to cut their sentence time. The master thinks the price is an absolute joke and sarcastically asks if trading their own safety for a measly 100,000 coins was really worth it. Looking at the crew bowing on the floor, the GMM Sub lays down the new rules, declaring that from this second on, he runs the entire cell block. The thugs accept the order without a second thought and loudly announce that the kid is officially the new, respected boss of the cell. Thinking that title is super cringe, the Decim MC figures Mr. Han should be pulling up to get him out in 48 hours. 20 hours go by, and the clock finally hits the morning of the day. He's supposed to heal the old man in the city. Sitting on the police desk, the Tim MC's confiscated phone starts buzzing crazy hard with an incoming call. Watching the phone buzz, Police Chief Wang Dahan thinks it's hilarious that someone actually has the guts to call the locked-up kid. Answering it, the cop rudely tells them to stop calling, explaining that the kid pissed off the Lin Heir and ended up behind bars. On the other end, Mr. Han Weigo goes absolutely ballistic hearing this and slams his fist on his desk, demanding answers ASAP. The old man orders them to release the kid immediately, but the cop just laughs, saying nobody gets away with crossing that powerful family. Acting super cocky, Officer Wang Dahan claims that not even the highest boss in the country could force him to let the kid go. The call abruptly drops with a dead tone, while the old man grips the phone in total disbelief. Boiling with rage, Henwego screams in frustration inside the meeting room, right in front of his assistant and his grandson. His grandson tries to calm him down, telling him not to stress, but the old man yells that the cops have no idea what kind of monster they just caged. Wasting zero time, the old man barks orders for his right-hand man, bodyguard Chen Yang, to kick off the rescue mission for the kid. He orders the soldier to head to the station to spring the Devim MC Chen, telling him to drop the name of the top military boss if they catch any attitude. Giving a crisp salute, the fighter promises the boss he'll get the kid out fast and get the job done right. Meanwhile, Chief Wang Dahan puffs his cigarette looking super chill, thinking it's pathetic that a dumped outcast is being called master. With that, the cop unlocks his desk drawer and stashes the dirty money he just made. He's thrilled about how easy it was to score that bag just for locking a kid up, silently thanking the Lin Heir. Suddenly, some insanely loud bangs on the door scare the life out of the cop, ruining his victory lap. Annoyed by the noise, he yells that he's busy and demands to know what idiot has the nerve to interrupt him right now. At that exact moment, the wooden door gets absolutely blasted open, sending splinters flying everywhere and leaving the cop paralyzed with fear. A soldier in uniform named Chen Yang walks in and asks with zero emotion if he's the guy running this precinct. Furious about the breach, the chief jumps up, pointing his finger, and screams that kicking down the door of a police station is a massive felony. Paying zero attention to the chief's rant, the soldier delivers a brutal slap right to the dirty cop's face. Thanks to the sheer power of the hit, the guy goes flying backward over his desk, sending his dirty money scattering all over the floor. Sprawled out on the floor, covered in paperwork, the chief is completely stunned and speechless at the attacker's power. Scrambling to his feet, the cop screams that he's gonna blow the soldier's head off for daring to lay a hand on him. Right then, the soldier pulls out a lethal piece of hardware and aims it right between the cop's eyes, freezing him in terror. Flashing his official military ID, the fighter asks in a boss tone who exactly he thought he was threatening. Shaking with fear, the officer begs to talk it out calmly and asks why the military is suddenly crashing his station. The soldier orders him strictly to let Lu Donglai go right now, admitting he only showed up to rescue the master. The police chief goes dead silent, realizing this whole crazy situation was triggered just because of Lu Donglai. He desperately tries to make excuses, claiming the kid's case is super serious, and letting him walk like this totally breaks protocol. The soldier tells him to shut up and demands to see the master immediately, forcing the terrified chief to follow orders without blinking. Right then, the soldier tells the chief to lead the way to the cell so they can finally get the kid out of this place. In his head, the officer is frantically praying that Lu Donglai is still breathing after whatever punishment the inmates handed out. Walking down the station's dark hallways, the squad gets closer to the infamous cell 137. The police boss asks if the kid got roughed up, and hears that the cell leader is totally ruthless and definitely rearranged his face. He agrees the job needs to be done flawlessly to make sure he gets his payout from the powerful military Heir. Reaching the cell door, the head cop checks out the situation inside and is completely mind blown by what he sees. The most dangerous criminals in the building are literally serving food and giving messages to the TMC, who's chilling like an actual king. The cops gasp, unable to process how the terrifying cell boss is on his knees acting like the kid's personal butler. Keeping his chill and majestic vibe, Lu Donglai shoots a silent look at the authorities who just pulled up. The MCOs mentions his 2 days are up, but the guard captain yells that nobody has cleared him for release yet. He warns that knowing how to fight means nothing in jail, and that the cell boss was only the tutorial for his punishment. Because of that, the captain completely cuts off the cell's food supply to test if they can keep that same energy. The master sighs, feeling bad that the officer just threw away his absolute last chance to dodge a brutal payback. The officer just laughs at the warning, thinking the inmate is just salty, and totally mocks the ice cold glare he's getting. He keeps laughing, and says he can't wait to see the kid begging on his knees for scraps when he's starving over the next few days. Out of nowhere, Police Chief Wang Dehan sneaks up from behind and delivers a massive hit to the laughing guard captain. Hurt and totally furious about the cheap shot, the captain screams, demanding to know what weakling just hit him from behind. The police chief yells back, asking who gave him the right to act like such an absolute clown to a civilian inside the jail. Moving fast, the chief unlocks the cell and says he's letting him out right away, feeling a huge wave of relief seeing the kid doesn't have a scratch on him. The soldier Chen Yang asks the kid to come with him to see Mr. Han, and the master gives the team props for following through on the rescue deal. But he tells him MC Sui casually drops that he doesn't have permission to leave the cell yet, leaving everyone super confused. The soldier is totally lost by the rejection and asks why the kid would want to stay locked in a cage. Pointing right at the guard captain, the master brings up the warning he just gave and asks if the guy didn't want to see him begging on his knees. He demands the cocky officer drop to the floor right now to pay for totally disrespecting his honor. The master orders the officer to beg desperately for him to agree to leave the station, leaving the guy completely terrified. Having zero choice with the heavy military presence right there, the captain drops to his knees on the cold floor, completely clueless on what to do. The police chief kicks his underling, ordering him to stop stalling and start begging immediately so the master will finally agree to leave. Totally humiliated, the guard captain presses his forehead to the floor and starts stuttering his apologies in a whisper. The master drops an ice cold warning that he can't hear the apology and orders him to do it again, way louder this time. The officer screams in pure panic, begging the kid to leave, owning up to his mistake, and admitting he never should have made him mad. With tears streaming down his face, he stays on his knees begging for the master's forgiveness in front of literally everyone. Looking down at the officer's meltdown, the kid decides that lesson was definitely enough to humble the guy. Satisfied with the display of loyalty, he finally agrees to step out of the cell and walk toward freedom. The police chief guides the kid acting super submissive, insisting on clearing the path for him personally. The inmates all bow at the exact same time and shout a respectful goodbye to the undisputed new boss of the block. The chief tries to do damage control, claiming the whole thing was just a misunderstanding by his officers. But the master tells him to zip it. In the other cells, the prisoners whisper in shock seeing them showing so much respect, wondering who this OP kid actually is. Leaving the dark police station behind, the TMC Zers and the soldier in uniform walk out into the fresh air. The chief wipes the cold sweat off his face, super relieved to finally get that terrifying kid off his property. The soldier opens the back door of a super nice black luxury car and politely invites the master to hop in. The FMC asks if the guy is active military, and the bodyguard hits him with an instant yes. Giving a proper military salute, the soldier formally introduces himself as a first lieutenant and says he takes orders straight from Old Man Han. The kid gives the green light to roll out, and the lieutenant nods immediately before jumping behind the wheel of the military ride. Because of that, the big SUV's tires grip hard, and the car speeds off quickly, leaving the parking lot in the dust. With the heavy engine roaring, the car cruises through the city streets toward Mr. Han's location. Meanwhile, campus life is carrying on as usual at the famous Xiangjiang University. The bully with the broken arm checks his phone, totally convinced the AMC Zhao has already been folded inside the jail. But a text from the police chief updates him that the kid got bailed out by the heavy hitting Han family, warning him to watch his back. The military kid goes into absolute panic mode after reading the text and drops his phone straight onto the classroom floor. He stammers, totally unable to process how the insanely powerful and untouchable Han family decided to step in and save a loser. A classmate tries to check on him, asking what's wrong, but gets shoved away aggressively by the guy who is totally losing his mind. Blinded by rage and panic, the Heir kicks the desks around him, screaming that he can't understand why his enemies are interfering. Realizing how bad things just got, he decides to call his dad and older brother to warn them about the massive threat. At that moment, the black luxury SUV rolls through the gates of a massive, over-the-top private estate. The lieutenant mentions Mr. Han was incredibly pissed off about the whole mess, and the master says he totally saw that reaction coming. The driver glances in the rearview mirror, super curious, and asks how the kid knew the old man had enough pull to spring him from jail. Checking out the armed guards patrolling the estate, the master figures only a high-ranking military vet would live in a place like this. Chen Yang explains that Old Man Han is a war vet dealing with a bunch of battle scars that modern doctors are completely clueless on how to fix. Hearing that, Lu Donglai mentions he already guessed why they reached out, while the soldier apologizes for doing a background check on him. He goes on to say he knows the kid is a rejected outcast from the Lu family who spent the last 20 years being called the campus dummy. Based on that, Lu Donglai asks if the soldier doubts his skills to heal the old man, but the lieutenant quickly shoots that idea down. The soldier parks the car and admits he just wanted to test one last theory, grabbing the kid's attention. Out of nowhere, Chen Yang shifts into a hardcore fighting stance and flexes his physical aura to test the kid's stats. Launching a lightning-fast strike packed with crazy physical power, the soldier goes all in at the NMCRMs, blocking the heavy hit effortlessly with just one arm. Lu Donglai asks if this is supposed to be a vibe. Check on his durability. Blown away by the flawless block, Chen Yang confirms the kid is definitely a secret, high-tier martial arts fighter. Thinking quietly, the kid accepts the title, knowing the word Cultivator literally doesn't exist on Earth, making it the perfect cover story. Then, the soldier guarantees that if he has martial arts skills, he can definitely save the old man, and guides the kid inside the mansion. They walk side by side toward the front doors of the massive, flashy Han family estate. Inside, the old man's annoyed son, Han Feng, is yelling angrily, asking how his dad could put his faith in some random street healer. The old man fires back, asking if his son really doubts his judgment, but Han Feng insists he shouldn't risk his life on a gamble. Flexing a fancy international doctor with glasses, Han Feng brags that Dark Smith, a famous specialist from the US, is the guy hired to fix his dad's health. Acting super arrogant while adjusting his glasses, Dar Smith claims the old man got scammed by a fake, since nobody in the country has the skills to treat him. The old man gets furious at the doctor's disrespect, but his grandson tells him to chill, suggesting the foreigner might actually have the cure. Bursting into a sarcastic laugh, the foreign doctor insists that anyone claiming they can perform a miracle cure is just a total fraud. Suddenly, the doctor stops laughing and his eyes go wide when he spots someone standing in the doorway of the main room. Chilling at the entrance next to the military officer, Lu Donglai stares at the foreign doctor with zero emotion and straight up asks if that trash talk was aimed at him.